Here we are again. Charles, I've just recovered from COVID. My voice is still not what it ought to be. But I want to talk to you very quickly about an important topic. And to do that, I'm going to have to tell you a little bit about my childhood. I grew up in Miami, born 30 miles south of there. That was in 1930. We moved to Miami in 1933 to a house new to us. It was not a new house, but one my parents were totally unacquainted with. Nice two-story house. But as after they had moved in furniture and already gotten beds and items up on the second floor, a neighbor came over to talk to my mother, complimented the family and spoke very lovingly, and then said this, and you hear me carefully. She said, I know what an inconvenience this would be to you, but I beg you, do not move into this house. There was a fright in her voice. Oh, my mother naturally asked, why? And she just stepped closer to my mother and she said, because everyone who has ever lived in this house has had horrible tragedy. I know what an inconvenience it would be for you to leave now, but she said, I beg you, please don't live in this house. She was giving a very honest, bold statement about the condition she was in and what she had known about the house. Well, the problem was we already had furniture on the second floor. My dad had to be in his office the next day, and we had nowhere else to go. So you know what happened. We stayed. We'd been there a very brief time when my parents heard strange noises in the house. Sometimes they would come from the attic, which my father searched. The attic. It would come from the walls. Nowhere they could find it. But we had nowhere else at that emergency to go, so we stayed. We'd been there a very brief time after hearing these strange sounds and the warning from the neighbor who had begged my mother for us to not stay. My mother had a vision one day. She lay down on the bed to rest. It was middle of the afternoon. She said she turned to the side, and lying there beside her was what looked like the dead image of her grandmother. And she was dressed in the funeral clothes like she was in the casket. And that had happened years before. My mother said she was so terrified, she slipped one leg off the bed and then prepared to jump and run. And I want you to hear this about my mother. She was a college-degreed, educated woman. She was not the type of person who could just be easily influenced by some joke or some tragic tale someone told. She was an educated woman. She said when she saw the image, she slid one leg off the bed, prepared to jump and run, when the image put its arm across her and stopped her, and spoke, and said, don't worry, we are going to take care of you. Well, please hear me carefully. You don't want, in a situation like that, someone else taking care of you, but they did. It was a short time after my mother woke up one morning. My dad was still in bed. He worked for the U.S. Immigration Department. Normally sneaked out early in the morning and went to his office. He was still in bed. She got up on her knees and shook him, and he didn't respond. And the reason he didn't respond, he was totally paralyzed from head to toe. It was shortly after that, before we could do anything else, I fell from the second floor, smashed my skull, nearly bled to death, did get it stopped, but 3 years later had a clot from that old injury to break loose and paralyze the whole left side of my body. I still have effects of that paralysis in my face today, and that's been 87 years ago or more. At any rate, here's what I'm telling you. Everything Jesus taught about demons is real. 30%, really more than 30% of Jesus' recorded ministry was spent in direct conflict with unclean spirits. Over 30%. Let me ask you this question. It's a question I now ask myself. For the first 30 plus years of my ministry, which was a good ministry and a blessed ministry, but for the first 30 years, I never preached one sermon about casting out demons. Now, if you read the New Testament, you'll find that Jesus gave that authority and power to all of the original disciples. Well, not only that, but when he gave the Great Commission, he said in the Great Commission, to the end of the age, these signs will follow those who believe. In my name, they will cast out demons. I never did. No, we stayed in the house there in Miami until we were permanently injured, and then we got out. Unfortunately, we made no attempt until crisis hit to escape, and then we did. Here's what I'm telling you. I'm telling this more now to myself as Christians and as Bible-believing pastors, which I am. We need to preach the whole counsel of God. You hear me? We need to preach the whole counsel of God. We don't need to back off from confronting demons and teaching congregations that they're real. We don't need to back off from that. We need the full empowering and authority of the Holy Spirit. Well, my last point is this. Back in 1977, I experienced what the New Testament calls being filled with the Spirit. I'd been ordained in 1949. I had all of those years. I never one time preached about resisting the devil. I never preached about casting out demons. I never preached about the fact that if you've got a house that's demonized, you yourself can cleanse it. Hear this, my parents, if their church had properly taught them, my parents could have gone in that house, addressed it in the authority of Jesus Christ, and chased every demon out of it. Do you hear what I'm saying? They, as believing disciples of Jesus Christ, could have driven every demon out. They didn't know that because the church didn't teach it. Here's my concern now. We churches and we pastors better get serious about preaching the whole New Testament. It is not our privilege to deviate from one part because our denomination disapproves of it. Let me tell you something. If you're in one of those denominations that's going to disapprove of something Jesus taught, tell the good denomination goodbye. Go on with the Lord. Move with Christ. Leave the other junk behind. All right? God bless you. It's important to you. I hope you'll listen carefully to what I say, and we'll talk again soon. Okay? Bye.